Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. We were just at Portland for the Science Cannabis Conference with Athletes for Cannabis panel. This was a cannabis panel that was moderated by Dr. Sue Sisley with panelists with Riley Cote of the NHL, Cliff Robinson of the NBA, Anna Symonds, rugby team, and Marvin Washington, NFL.
And now invite our players to introduce themselves. I'm so thrilled to have these good people here. We've got an incredible group of gladiators up here that are going to share some of their experiences. So why don't we start with Marvin? I'm going to have each of you guys just give us your name, your sport, and if you can talk about your relationship to cannabis and when it started.
Marvin Washington, NFL for 11 years. Been in the cannabis, hemp space, CBD space for the past 5 years. The relationship started in high school back in the 80s, and then I stopped. And now mostly on the CBD side, that's what I medicate and microdose with daily. But I'm an advocate, an entrepreneur, and an activist in the cannabis space, mostly preaching about the medicinal benefits of cannabis, particularly with athletes and ex-athletes that have been poisoned during their career and sometimes after by the opiates, benzodiazepines that these team trainers and team doctors have prescribed to them. And then also, particularly with my sport and contact sports like Riley, about the closed hand injury, which the NFL has an industrial disease, which is CTE. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I don't think that's going to be solved through equipment or rule changes. I think it's going to be solved through science, and I believe that cannabis, hemp, the patent that the government has is the best route to solve the NFL's closed hand issues.
Hi, I'm Anna Symonds, and I play rugby in the USA Rugby Women's Premier League. Lesser known sport, but still a full contact sport. And my relationship with cannabis started when I was 13. That's when I first tried it. And before I ever got drunk, interestingly enough, which really balances out to now because I actually don't consume alcohol anymore. But I consume cannabis. And it has been therapeutic for me. It's allowed me to continue playing. This is my 19th year of playing rugby, so I've accumulated a lot of things in the body over those years, injuries and whatnot. So it's medicine, and it is also a way to enjoy life. I also do cannabis science and education, specifically with a CBD focus here in Oregon for East Coast Cultivars.
Hello, my name is Cliff Robinson, former NBA player, played 18 years. My relationship with cannabis started back when I was in high school as well, but I didn't really truly realize the benefits I was getting from it until I was older. Until I got older into college and into my professional that I realized the benefits that I was getting from it as far as recovery, as far as my anxiety. I still deal with it right now. I've been dealing with health issues over the last 3 years, and cannabis has always been that go-to to help me kind of relax and get myself in a good, calm, relaxed situation. And I'm proud to be up here with these freedom fighters who are doing everything they can to help free the plant. I'm a proud activist and continue to do that.
All right, my name is Riley Cote. I am a former NHL hockey player. Played 8 years of professional hockey for the Philadelphia Flyers. I retired in 2010. With a laundry list of physical injuries. I wasn't known for my skill or finesse or goal scoring ability. It was more of a banger. And in over 250 hockey fights, so I seemed to gravitate towards cannabis early in my life to just, I guess you could say manage the pain and anxiety of fighting it. I was introduced to cannabis at a young age, 15 years old, and obviously recreational settings, along with alcohol and other street drugs. So not really understanding much about cannabis. It wasn't until I think I turned pro and I started really to identify what was helping me with the anxiety component, just the general inflammation and sleep. As you can imagine, preparing to fight on a regular basis is in a natural state, and I thought that's when I started identifying the cannabis that really helped with that. And just general, pain and inflammation. I didn't really truly understand cannabis, I don't think, until I retired in 2010, when I started to, learn about the plant outside of just the THC component, and I started learning about, the industrial applications of hemp, learning about the nutritional profile of the hemp seeds, and started learning about these non-intoxicating cannabinoids. So it just kind of opened up this different dimension of cannabis that I'd been previously introduced to. So, from there on, I kind of started leaning on cannabis in a more mindful way to manage, the residuals from the concussions that I sustained, and just knowing there was a U.S. patent on cannabinoids as neuroprotectants, and just understanding that it just seemed to be fitting that I would lean on this as a recovery tool. And I've been using cannabis since I retired my last 2 surgeries in 2010, strictly cannabis, no pharmaceuticals, and haven't touched one since. So cannabis is, I would say, saved my life on many levels. And it's beautiful to start an organization called Athletes for Care with a group of other athletes, and just really start with advocacy, education, sharing stories, and obviously meeting with doctors and researchers like Sue over the years has really validated many of these stories, obviously. So I started a hemp-derived CBD company to really try and do what I can to provide sustainable alternative solutions for players and people, and here we are. It's an honor to be up here with you guys, and not just share stories, but to validate it through science. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks, Sue.
Questions, and then I want you guys to think about questions, because we're definitely going to give you a chance to speak up here. So let's just start by, what do the leagues tell you about opioids? I'm sure that all of you got prescribed them at one time or another. Did anyone ever talk to you about potential dependency with them? Who wants to do it first?
I go, because I think that was part of NFL's culture, and for a long time, I thought that, there's no way that you can play football, professional football, without having opiates, because it's a long season, and football is a physical, violent game. And so if I was to, somehow have my 25-year-old body, and they said, I'm going to play this Sunday, I could write my own script, because I knew what anti-inflammatories to take, pain blockers, pain pills, and taking a shot of Toradol before the game. And I can remember what they told us. They didn't tell us anything, but I can remember when Toradol came into the league. This was like maybe an hour before the game, 30 minutes before the game, guys lined up getting Toradol shots just to play in the game, because it made me feel like Superman. All the pain went away, you could just go out there and play. But they gave us all the warnings and whatever. Probably like a scroll, like 36 inches of a scroll about the warnings of the Toradol shot. So who's going to read that before a game? But then in the off season, once I started reading about it, then I could have a stroke, I could have all these negative side effects to it. I stopped taking Toradol. But when I left the league, I know over 28 teams were still using Toradol before the games. They're not telling these guys anything. And so that's why when there's 20,000 former NFL players, we're 4 times as more likely to abuse opiates than general society. And so we know what's happening with general society, so you can imagine what's happening with my community. And so that's why I keep pushing for something that's non-toxic, non-addictive, and as an alternative to opiates. Now, if I get a broken finger or something like that, I'm gonna want an opiate for acute pain. But I don't need it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I don't need it from July to February. and then all of a sudden you expect them to cut it off. It doesn't happen that way for a lot of guys. So that's why I'm gonna keep pushing this for something that's natural and can do the same thing as an anti-inflammatory, can do the same thing as a pain blocker in certain instances. So that's my deal with Dr. Susan having with Roger Goodell and the NFL, but I'm going at it with my former union, the NFLPA, and trying to get them to have a sensible drug policy introduced into their next CBA, which ends in, is coming up in 2020.
Tying to that, does the NBA have a similar collective bargaining agreement coming up where you could have an impact?
Yes. They're right now, they're currently still under the old collective bargaining. Judges are still getting fined for consuming cannabis, but I'm sure it's going to be in the conversation in the next time. But to jump off what Marvin said, opioids are always available in the locker room. Myself, I stayed away from that stuff, but he said Florida, but Naperson was like the drug of the trainer's choice to give the players to, because they're always worried about information. You see a guy on the court, he's always got ice on his knees, or he's in the locker room. You go in the locker room, guys got ice on their knees. So Naperson was always available. I stayed away from it. I always believe in cannabis and its ability to help me recover. And I'm trying to do what I can to help the players understand and try to push them to understand that they need to fight for the right to be able to at least have the option.
Anybody else want to touch on? Otherwise, I want to jump into CTE a little bit more. We just talked a lot about CTE in this previous discussion. I wonder, how do you guys view this? I mean, you're all putting your bodies and your brains on the line every day in your sport, and I wonder, how do you think about that a lot? Like, what is my brain going to look like in 10 years or 20 years? And do you have any idea about how many concussions head injuries you've had over the course of your career?
With me, a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when Frank Gifford died, and you can't tell the story of the NFL without Frank Gifford, from his storied career at USC to the NFL with the Giants, and then post-career with Monday Night Football was commentating. And when he died, and they did the post-mortem test for his brain, and he had CTE, because obviously his family knew something. I phoned a friend, I said, I think we all have it to a certain extent. I'm pretty sure that repetitive hits to the head, I think we all have it to a certain extent, and I don't know what 10 years or 20 years is going to look like, but I do know that I donated my brain to the Boston Brain Bank, and when they cut it open, they're going to see that I have CTE, but I can believe that that's going to come out with hockey players, because they have their own deal. I think UFC's coming. I think even rugby players, female soccer players, and definitely football players are leading the way. So I don't think I'm lucky enough to have played in the trenches of the NFL for 11 years, and it's all of a sudden missed me. I'm hoping that they have something out, that's medical grade that can help these guys have a quality of life, because I get too many calls from players that are dealing with the closed head injury, and I try to help them, but I'm not a $13 billion industry like the NFL. If they can get behind it, they can change the narrative and change the trajectory of the closed head injury for not only NFL players, but across all contact sports and in general society.
To add to that, I'm also a donor to the VAU CLF Brain Bank. Anybody can do that, but anyone who's been an athlete is especially encouraged, or has had military service. And I've also been hitting my head a lot by the ground. car accidents. And I think for me, those were probably the worst. A few years ago, put me out for the better part of a year, and I spent months dealing with vertigo, nausea, headaches every day. And I am back to playing, and I credit cannabis for that recovery process. I use CBD, but the other cannabinoids as well. I think the whole plant is really important. And before I started playing rugby 19 years ago, I played soccer my whole life. And being the tallest player on the team, I headed the ball a lot. When we got a penalty near their goal, that was our play. That it was designed for me to head it in. Lots of heading practice. And so I do think we'll be learning a lot more about it. And I think Marvin's right that right now, this really looks like our best option is what we're learning about the proteins that accumulate in the brain to cause the sort of dysfunctions of CTV, which are related to Alzheimer's. Really cannabis is honestly the best thing that we've seen, and we tend to follow these things pretty closely. So
that's really helpful. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll jump in there. I think the conversation around CTE is, for me, somewhat complicated because I look at athletes, whether they're contact sports or not, and just the amount of substance abuse that generally comes with, say, a professional athlete, and alcohol, and the whole party scene and everything else that comes along with it. I'd be curious to even ask you, Sue, how you're able to separate what a brain with CTE looks like versus a brain that's, almost, let's say, an alcoholic's brain or someone has major substance abuse. Because what we've learned from alcohol and dehydrating the brain, it much mimics what a brain with CTE looks like. A lot of these guys do have substance abuse, so and I do agree that obviously getting punched in the head or getting smashed in the head regularly doesn't help the brain by any means. So where are we able to separate the two, or make some sense of where the line is, or what part of the brain damage is actually from the head trauma, what part is it from say the damage from alcoholism and what have you. I mean, for myself, I can speak for myself that I did have a substance abuse problem. I played a ton of partying, and I was getting punched in the face for a living. And I'm not sure which one was worse. Telling the truth, feeling like hell the next morning and trying to get through practice just to get to my bed to sleep it off. And then when I retired, I realized that I had some issues. So I had to make some sense of if I stop fighting, well, the issues should go away. But if you don't stop the party, they might still be. You know what I mean? So I kind of went like cold turkey, where I went on this path of say holism. Just I cut out the drinking for a full year, try to recover. I also got into other things that promote brain health. The lion's mane mushrooms, and started getting into microdosing psilocybin. All these things that actually promote brain health. But I guess where I get lost in this conversation is that we can't put 100% of the blame on just the repeated head trauma, because there's more to the brain health than just the trauma itself. I think if your brain's chronically dehydrated, you're not helping your brain recover, and therefore it's probably deteriorating. So I don't want to ask you the question, but because I don't know the answer. I just feel like it's complicated because there's guys that have way less head trauma than I've ever been, and myself. I've been, what is the definition of a concussion these days? It's like any sort of jarring of the brain. If every hockey fight that I was in, I got punched in the head at least once, that's, a minimum of 250 concussions. So I guess, I think the conversation gets complicated because I think there's more to brain health than just the actual repeated trauma.
Yeah, no, you're emphasizing the desperate need for more clinical trials that would help us elucidate that, and you're asking all the right questions. I think for our final question, I just want to come back to our original topic, which was about the racial disparities in the professional sports leagues. I'm wondering if you guys saw those stats that I put up earlier about, the fact, like just with the NFL alone, that all of the players last year who were sanctioned for, testing positive for cannabis were all black. So is that, do you guys, when you were going through the NBA, did you sense that same kind of racial disparity in NBA as in the NFL?
I don't if there was that much of a great disparity, but I know I was taken off the court for cannabis use, so, and that happened to me like maybe 3 times in my career. You know, I'm not proud of it, but unfortunately, I still believe in what cannabis is doing.
Were the usage rates in NBA similar between white and black players, or were they pretty close?
I never wanted to throw any number on how many guys were smoking cannabis in the NBA, but a lot of guys do. So it's our time to change it.
Yeah.
They're doing it, so they might as well educate them and make sure they're getting the right stuff.
Yeah. So who is the commissioner now in the NBA?
Adam Silver?
Okay, so if you had a chance to sit down with him for 5 minutes, how could you bring up this issue with him in terms of cannabis and the racial issue? What would you say that you could help him understand and maybe change the policies on it?
Well, one, he should probably take a look at have a conversation with the current players and try to get a poll on who's actually using cannabis and who's not. I'm pretty sure they would be willing to do that. They don't have to put their name to it, but I'm sure there's a number of guys who would be willing to do that. And truly, you have to continue to educate them on what's out there, what CBD is, what cannabis is, what the cannabinoid system is, and all that. And you continue to educate them, and you continue to break them down with that. I mean, they can't help but get it eventually, but it's going to start. It's going to have to. Me as a former player, I can come out and say, "Oh yes, I believe in cannabis," but I mean, they took me off the court for it, and you know, they can point at both the rules, and I mean, they have a case. But at the end of the day, it's going to take current players to stand up, not former players. It's going to take guys who are actually out there on the floor believing in it to come out, and I mean, that's what it's going to start.
Yeah, that's a great answer. You guys have any, I'm curious since you're all in different leagues, what would you say, like, Anna, if you were talking to your league director, how would you confirm about that?
It's funny you say that because I do have plans to speak with them. So, USA Rugby, there are a few problems. One is that the national team players are told that they can't even use CBD because, they don't want a risk of something that's contaminated with THC. Notice the air quotes, sarcastic, to make their test pop. But even further, they do have a bias against even association with cannabis. There was a player I know based up in Seattle who was in the national team player pool. She was playing, for being selected for test matches, which is the highest honor you can get in rugby, is to play for your country in an international match. And her job is in the cannabis industry in Washington, legal, licensed. And they said, well, if you want to keep playing for the national team, you have to quit that job. You can't work in that industry and pay for it. And so she quit the national team and she's doing her job. But what a terrible thing to do to somebody. And for what? So I want to educate them about the science and that their players can actually be benefiting, and that we need to get the program.
Yeah. So Marvin, what do you think? You mentioned the CDA coming up in 2020. Are you optimistic that we're going to fix this with the CDA? And if so, what is the concession that the players are going to have to give up to get marijuana approved?
Well, I hope it's not 18 games, but they're going to have to give up something, maybe more contact practices during the season. But, 23 players, and I'm counting my union on it, just stop testing for it. That's why nobody in the NHL and Major League Baseball really gets popped for cannabis, because they're not testing for it. It's humiliating, cumulative, and it's stupid. So that's what I think. First of all, that the thing that's going to happen first is they stop testing these players and punish them and taking away their paycheck over something that's natural. But you're finding them and suspending them over this plant. But on the other hand, you're feeding them all these benzodiazepine and opiates to your players. So that's kind of stupid. So I think that's going to happen. you know, the NFL can go a long way in changing this, but the NFL is 75% African American. We know that we were targeted by the prohibition of this plant. You know, when Richard Nixon put it on the schedule going back in 71 or 72, he wanted to go after two groups. He wanted to go after the counterculture people in the 60s, and he wanted to go after African Americans, and that's when the war on drugs started in earnest. So we got a lot of work to do, not only in the sports leagues, but in society to make a level playing field for everybody with this plant. And don't do business as usual. Let's do their business. And I'd say the NFL can change that, because I think like the football player that's going to bring cannabis into the mainstream, middle America and what have you, he's probably in high school, junior high. So by the time that happens, I'll be pushing a baby or something. But back to the point is the NFL has to stop testing for it, because it's not a performing enhancing drug. So let these guys medicate instead of taking naproxen. And if you talk about naproxen, that's like candy. You know, and that was every day was naproxen. But these guys are taking more than that just to practice. So let them medicate with cannabis, and I don't care how they do it in legal states. They can give it out, and the doctors can give it out in the proper dosage that he thinks is best, so the guys can have something that he can take home. He can come and practice the next day and cover practicing, no negative side effects, instead of giving him that little vanilla envelope with the pills in it. And that's how it happens when you're giving these guys pills and it's killing their, their liver and their internal organs, and there's a high probability that you get them addicted. You know, a fourth of them are going to be addicted when they leave the game too open. So Roger Goodell always talks about protecting the shield. Well, your former players going around with head trauma, and your former players going around addicted to opiates. That's not protecting the shield. Let's give these guys an alternative, because we all know when cannabis is introduced to the community, open addiction goes down. So let's introduce cannabis into the NFL, and your open addiction will go down.
That's a perfect place to wrap it up. We're going to throw this out to you guys in the audience. If you all want to come up to the mic, I know Jill's out there. She's going to help us field questions. Any of you want to hop up now? We've got a question right off the bat.
Sue, quick question. What's happening with the leagues and CBD? I mean, THC is one thing, but what's happening with the leagues and CBD?
Good question. Who wants Ronnie?
Well, they're clearly all different, but I think the complicated part is that it's associated with cannabis. They send out memos to the teams about, like Anna said, contaminated products. Or the organization themselves only purchase NSF certified products, meaning they're guaranteed to not fail a drug test. So from that standpoint, they're kind of like buyer beware. I think there's probably still a misunderstanding that you can actually fail a drug test with THC with a full spectrum CBD product. So there's just a misunderstanding, I think, but I think they're still really just challenged by the fact that it's, even if it's a hemp-derived CBD product, that it's still cannabis associated.
Yeah, they're still at the point, you say CBD, they say does it get you high? You say no, it doesn't get you high. You say CBD, does it get you high? So, I mean, they don't understand. You have to continue to educate them, but they still at that point don't understand the difference between THC and CBD.
One of the things that I'm running into, and I've talked to the league and I'm talking to another league with the deputy commissioner, is when I sit down with him, just educating him on CBD, because he got back to me and he was like, talking about Roger Goodell, picking it from state to state, but there's three types of CBD. There's broad spectrum, full spectrum, and there's isolate. And so I want to use the isolate, to get in the league, and then we'll show them everything else. But I think isolate is the safest way for all players to use it in all leagues, and they don't have to worry about any jurisdiction or any state or anything like that. They can carry it across state lines. They don't have to worry about the local law enforcement or popping positive tests because I don't know if it's true or not, but it's the CBD or THC kind of stats, even though it might be that below that 0.3 level, it kind of stats. And so now you can get a positive test, and that's why you have like the truck driver who bought some CBD at a convenience store, a truck stop, and he went in and got a UA and lost his job, and now he's suing that company. So I think you can do an isolate, put other ingredients like turmeric or drug medic and what have you, and get in that way.
Who's next?
Over here.
Thank you. My question is, it's a two-part question. The major sports leagues they seem to ignore the science. Do you think other industries, maybe alcohol, pharmaceutical industry, are maybe impeding that progress because they need them as a customer? And then also, do you think we'd still have Andrew Luck around if cannabis was accepted in football?
I have no idea about Andrew Luck. He made his decision. It was a brave decision. I stand by it. You know, a lot of people didn't like it, but I would say it's easy to be brave in another man's body. But I know that if they had it as an alternative, a few guys would have played longer, or a few guys would still be playing from the feedback that I'm getting, but I have no idea about it.
Because it's original about alcohol and farm.
Yeah, I feel that 100%. I think, you look in Canada, the hockey world, and Molson Canadian is, lead sponsor for the NHL, and, I think if you look in any locker room or, in the medical side of sports, it's all driven through pharma. I mean, you have a sleeping issue, we'll throw you in Ambien, I think it's it just mimics, the traditional protocols that currently exist right now. So I think it's just one of the same. I think the sports world just reflects society. You look at the opioid problem, you look at the substance abuse problem. It's created because of the lack of options and alternatives. So it's slowly changing, but not quick enough in my opinion.
Good afternoon. I'm a medicine woman, so I make smokeless cannabis rings. So I'm wondering how all of you dose. Did you only smoke it, or do you use capsules and suppositories and all that's available?
I still love dry flower. I tried to get into the vape, really didn't resonate a whole lot with me, and a little bit, but I think for me, I kind of stayed true to the dry flower.
I kind of stayed true to the dry flower myself. I do a little vaping, I do a little edibles, but the flower has kind of helped me maintain my appetite, especially throughout these medical issues.
Mm-hmm. I also enjoy flower, but I do consume a wide variety of cannabis products. Capsules are great for travel. There's some really amazing edibles out there, and even a weed lube. I don't know if you guys have tried it.
Okay. So how do you use that CBD?
I microdose throughout the day. I start out with CBD coffee. I have a tincture. There's a multivitamin that I take, and then if I can't sleep or want some rest, we have a CBD sleep pack.
Excellent news. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you so much. Quick question. I noticed that there is not a representative for the MLB. Are there the same restrictions for baseball and their views on cannabis? And do you know if there is a MLB advocate for cannabis?
Yeah, I'm a certified clinician for Major League Baseball, and sadly, it's really tough to get them to speak publicly about this issue, but they enjoy relative impunity from this. We test everyone for drugs of abuse, so cannabis is on the screener, but the league never goes after them. If you're a major league player, there's no punishment. But if you're a minor league player, then you're screwed. Minor league gets sent to rehab, and it's a big mess. So that's why all the players dream of getting in the league. Just for that issue. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's sort of this attitude like what Marvin was talking about, the NFL coveting the shield and this whole imagery. Same thing with Major League Baseball loves to promote their, mom apple pie kind of image, and they think that cannabis detracts from that, and so it's really hard to get them. I don't know, have you guys ever been on a panel with Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you have been on one?
Yeah, we had one a couple of years ago. Former patient for the park.
His belief in cannabis.
He's got one.
Yeah, I'm twisting his arm. He's close.
Who spoke with you?
Josh, I forget his last name, was a few years ago, and we were trying to bring him, but he got busy with his other outside interests. But Major League Baseball is more concerned about performing events and drugs, and so they're popping guys for steroids, not cannabis. And Adderall, just to play 162 games a year.
Hi. I have a two-part question. One, I hear you talking about, opioids and alcohol and those being an issue, but what about things like, one person did mention benzodiazepines, antidepressants, antipsychotics that are being given for all kinds of ailments, and then, lo and behold, for whatever reason, they're going to pull the sheet out from underneath you and you're left without that. So are your organizations helping people that were doing exactly as their doctor recommended and then find themselves very, very ill because the medications no longer work? Yeah, well, and Riley, I'm sure can chime in on this. We are actually members in an organization called Athletes for Care, which is a nonprofit, and that stands for Community Advocacy, Research, and Education, the CARE part. And so the community part is former athletes helping one another make that transition out of a job, an identity, and the wreckage that's left behind with some of the sacrifices that they're making, and moving into a phase of life that will hopefully be less painful, more full of health and joy. And so we absolutely do maintain that kind of informal network, and now it's formalizing more with the organization. But I'm sure Riley and Marvin can speak more to that too. What, co-founders? Riley definitely was a co-founder.
Was your question about when they pull the rug out, they just leave them on their own? Is that kind of your concern?
And how are they treating those people? Because, there is a difference between addiction and doing what your doctor said and taking it as prescribed. If you're not taking an extra quarter pill, or if you're not trying to get your prescription early, and you're doing everything the same that you're supposed to, and then all of a sudden, because of the laws that are changing, or because of the perspective that is changing in the world about these medications, the doctors are not being forthright and doing nice slow tapers. They're, half it, then half it, then half it, and then people are sick for sometimes months up to years. And I'm just wondering if you have seen this in your area of expertise, and how are they dealing with that?
I personally haven't seen them rip the carpet out like that, where these guys have struggled, at least while they were still playing on the same team that I was involved in. But I have seen absolute mismanagement of those drugs, or using those drugs for masking concussion symptoms and whatnot, and seeing these guys go squirrely, where what they do is throw them in the substance abuse program now. You know what I mean? So it's a different type of problem. It's just it's the way they treat their players. Again, it's not sustainable, and it does lead them down to substance abuse. So for them, they're just like, you just go to the 30-day program and then come back to the team. That's the way they deal with it, and that's the way they deal with any of it. I mean, if you have a sleeping pill problem, they're doing the exact same thing from the drugs that they gave you. It's the same deal.
So they're still making it your fault.
Of course, yeah. Because you're making the decisions, right? Of course.
Jill, can we take that one more? Okay.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, I want to thank each of you for your transparency and your advocacy. We really appreciate this. On a quick personal note, I grew up a UConn basketball fan, so thank you, Cliff, very much. And I have two boys who play ice hockey, one in college and one junior, so they certainly know who you are. I actually am an athletic trainer by trade, and I know many of the people that you all work with on your teams. And I am happy to say that the culture in the athletic training world is slowly starting to change. But what's interesting is just about a month ago, the NHL had their medical meetings in Austin, Texas. And there was an exhibitor at the meetings who was passing out samples of CBD. And I received a handful of texts from many of the athletic trainers asking if they could take the sample and travel home with it on the plane. I had no idea. That was the level of knowledge. The good news was, following that, many of the athletic trainers from different organizations in the NHL called me and asked me to help them start to develop internal policies within. So it's happening at different levels, and I think it just takes the team of all of us, and from the athletic perspective, from medical perspective, from all of the industry. But I think the culture is rapidly changing, and I think you're going to see a more positive approach, at least from the athletic training perspective there. Thank you.
This has been so fun and the questions are wonderful. The good news is that these players are super friendly and approachable. So even though we're ending the formal program, feel free to come up and chat with them. And we wish you all a great evening. Thank you for coming.
And with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Or don't. And I'm out.